you know what I mean? But moving right along, you know, and yeah, I want to talk about this, you know, coon Judge Joe Brown. Judge Joe Brown was cooning, you know what I mean? Getting out here, you know, putting the cape on for Charlie Kirk. And truth be told, Judge Joe Brown been cooning for some time, low key, ever since he had that show. I'm surprised no brother and sister called him out as of yet. You know what I mean? And he just trying to deflect, you know, take the long way around as to not talk about racism, white supremacy. And this is done, if you ask me, because Judge Joe Brown is a coon and he in them pockets. He bought and paid for, you know. So when they got you on such tight a leash, you know, you ain't really going to rock the boat. You ain't going to try to have your capital stop. You know what I mean? But these kinds of people got to be exposed. You know what I mean? And, you know, he been doing this for some time, Judge Joe Brown. I just been laying back in the cut, you know, and observing. But, you know, what he's saying, he says, you know, that Charlie wasn't no racist, this, that, and the other. And that's a bunch of nonsense. And, you know, if you ask me, Judge Joe was bought and paid for. So I got the audio and the video. I ain't going to play too much of it because it belongs to the art of dialogue and I don't want to get copyrighted. So fair use, family.
They expressed to me the sentiment that environment, and they
Judge Joe was trying to say that young brothers are mad that Charlie Kirk, you know, got taken up out of here, you know, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Judge Joe just saying that because he putting the cape on and, you know, trying to get broken off of butter biscuits from, you know, the dominant society. But let's continue.
Somebody that had a very large following.
It's going to come up soon, family.
A very large following and development.
The parts that I'm going to break down is coming up soon, family. I just got to let it play.
And that crossed a whole lot of lines. I know some young black guys that are really upset about them taking him out.
Ain't nobody upset, you know, about them, you know, getting him up out of here. You know, that ain't a we problem. That's a them problem. You know, that's a problem that they got going on, you know, in-house, to where as though they don't want to address all the damn white on white crime they got going on in their community, but want to sit up and point to be more in Chicago as a deflection. And damn that, you know, we won't have that.
They expressed to me the sentiment that they were tired of people telling them that they were inferior to some.
And ain't nobody saying that we inferior, but we are under a system of racism, white supremacy, and the white supremacist is in a superior position. We got to acknowledge that, because if we don't acknowledge it, we ain't going to fight white supremacy. You got to acknowledge it to fight it, you know? So Judge Joe Brown just sitting up here skirting around and running deflection because he in the pockets of the dominant society. But let's continue.
Somebody that was supreme over them and that they couldn't make it and they needed help to make it, and somebody had to
we've been making it as foundational black Americans. Stop that, Judge Joe. And Judge Joe of the lineage, but he just up there cooning. He know that we've been, you know, built and we're sabotaged left and right. Black Wall Street, you know, Rosewood, you know, the list goes on. Every time foundational black Americans, we get a stronghold, the white supremacists see that and, you know, they get fearful, you know, of blacks building and getting on code. So they got to come and try to, you know, throw a monkey wrench in the game and stop and derail black progress. But let's continue.
Take care of them, and they didn't like that. So Kirk was giving them a rah-rah on an alternative way of looking at the world. Be proud of yourself.
Kirk wasn't telling no damn black people to be proud of, you know, of ourselves. Charlie Kirk was out there, you know, spewing anti-black racism every chance he got. You know, his whole damn platform, you know, was built off of, you know, denigrating George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, you know, our great foundational black American leader, MLK, you know, and Judge Joe Brown just sitting up there cooning, shucking and jiving. It's sad, truth be told, you know.
You know, some people get great joy in life about taking care of their business. TCB, duty, honor, obligation, accountability, responsibility. The deeper the adversity that you overcome, the more you have.
In the comment section, they was firing on old Judge Joe for sitting up there cooning for Charlie Kirk. You know what I mean?
Going for yourself. You are a warrior if you slay a great enemy. If you just stomp on somebody that is not a challenge. You haven't done anything. So he was giving people an opportunity to slay dragons in a righteous fashion.
He wasn't. Ain't no way in hell Charlie Kirk was righteous. Only thing Charlie Kirk was upholding is systematic racism, white supremacy. You know what I mean? That's his religion and God. That's what he practiced, and he for sure as hell every chance and opportunity he got never missed an opportunity to denigrate black folks.
And give them a cause and a purpose, which is not what we were getting from the communications, entertainment, and news industry.
Judge Joe Brown be skirting around, questions left and right, taking the long way around because he don't want to go at the system of racism, white supremacy. He knows good and well, that Charlie Kirk wasn't nothing more than a racist white supremacist.
Industries. So Charlie Kirk will be remembered.
How you feel about the people that call him a racist?
Listen to this, family.
I don't buy it.
He don't buy that Charlie Kirk is a damn racist. Where the hell he been living, under a rock? He bought and paid for it. Judge Joe Brown knows good and well that only thing that Charlie Kirk spewed was anti-black racism and anti-black talking points. He did this left and right. You know what I mean?
When I take the context of what he said, think of it. Some people are just flat-out idiots. Look at...
Yeah, but only thing Charlie Kirk focused on was denigrating black society, and Judge Joe Brown just sitting up there, caping and putting the cape on, shucking and jiving, skirting around questions because he knows what it really is. And it's sad to see him, go out like this. You know what I mean? Because he ain't nothing more than a coon now. So he on my coon radar. I got him labeled in the book of coons, but let's continue.
Jasmine Crockett, who seems to have actually gone to school in Memphis at a very elitist private school. Rhodes College, founded by the followers of Cecil B. Rhodes, who...
And he denigrated black women, saying that they got everywhere. Charlie Kirk's white supremacist ass said that, every black woman that got in a place of prominence and prestige, they got there through DEI. That's a bunch of nonsense. It couldn't be further from the truth. White women benefit more so from DEI than what, black people ever did. Everywhere a black woman got, they got there through hard work, tenacity, and the resilience, of their own of their own doing. Ain't nobody helping, black people get ahead. In fact, it's just the opposite. They work in opposition to us, getting ahead. They want to, derail, every black success they can. You know what I mean? So Judge Joe was just sitting up there acting, more like a hoe. I hate to say it and be frank. Judge Joe just sitting up there acting like a hoe. I'm gonna keep it all the way 1,000. You know what I mean? And darting around questions, running deflection, putting the cape on for Charlie Kirk. And that's a bunch of nonsense. And it's sad to see him go out like that. I just wanted to bring that to the family, him trying to divert, Charlie Kirk wanting a racist, this, that, and the other, Judge Joe just sitting up there, putting the cape on, for the white supremacists, because in all actuality, he bought and paid for a family. You know what I mean? And that makes me mad, seeing black folks, get out here and, on behalf of the dominant white society and, just not tell the truth, about racism, white supremacy. We ain't saying that we can't, build, because we always build it as foundational black Americans. You know what I mean? But every time we build and collectively get too much of a stronghold, here comes the white supremacists, trying to throw a monkey wrench in the game and trying to divert, black progress. You know what I mean? Because they in fear of it, because at the end of the day, they fear us collectively, as FBAs getting a stronghold, because they know we the most powerful people on the planet. Our whole spirit and aura is based, got resistance in it. And they fear us, getting a collective stronghold and coming into power and, suppressing them and marginalizing them the same way they done us. But that ain't in our being as foundational black Americans. For the most part, we are righteous people.